Why is this 1950s serial premium important to today's hobbyists? The legacy of the Kusan Cannonball in this episode of Toy Train Tips and Tricks. Today we're going to try something really crazy. 23.9, close enough. These are very close to true O scale. You don't want to try this with a modern transformer. So this is based off of a real B&O caboose from 1916 up to 1938. That is not helpful. Now it is truth or consequences time. Part of the circuit is running through this wire arm here. Very simple but effective animation for the layout. Hello again, this is Mike with Toy Train Tips and Tricks, and this is the Kusan Cannonball. Well, what's the Kusan Cannonball? Well, in 1956, 1957 or thereabouts, if you took a proof of purchase, a box top from a Post cereal and 75 cents, you could send it off, and again, 75 cents in a cereal box top, could get this Kusan Cannonball FA dummy diesel for another box top and a few more cents. You could get a boxcar, a caboose, and several other cars. And together they made the Kusan Cannonball set. So who is Kusan and what is this all about? Well, Kusan was based in the Nashville area, and it had been a long-established plastics company making lots of different five and dime store toys, toy guns and different sets, as well as household items and other plastics. And so with the popularity of trains in the mid-1950s, they decided to get into the train business. So one of the moves that they made was in purchasing the inventory of Auburn model trains, which had been American model trains, which had recently fallen on hard times. So Kusan purchased their line and continued manufacturing their line of F7 diesels and freight cars for quite some time. But they also developed their own line of trains, which they called the K series. Now, this Kusan Cannonball was designed as a floor toy, meaning, if you look closely, right underneath the wheel, that round spot is, there used to be a tab there that connected to the frame that kept the trucks from rotating. And so with straight wheels on not only the locomotive, but all the cars, this would roll on the floor and just be used as a floor toy. However, by breaking off those tabs, it would operate on O-gauge track and O27. So here we have a dummy FA diesel. Now, the FAs were also made in powered versions and in different road names. Quite a few of them, as a matter of fact. And generally were made to run on two-rail track with DC power. On their F7s, many of them were designed that they could run on either two-rail or three-rail. I don't know if that mechanism was ever used on the FAs. But in any case, they came in many different road names, power and dummy, and were designed for Kusan's own brand of two-rail DC-powered track. So in addition to the Cannonball, which was the very, very, very cheapest version, they made other FAs as well. The same with the other rolling stock. The K series, the bottom line rolling stock, featured a boxcar, and if you look very, very carefully, the yellow is almost faded out, the Kusan Railroad. These for the Cannonball also came in yellow with red lettering, and also in many other colorful road names, and often included a brakeman figure that you could either glue in here or just ride around. But one side was molded with a permanently open door, the other side was molded with a permanently closed door, and the Cannonball, the cheapest of the cheap, was only lettered on one side. You see, this side is blank. Similarly, we have the caboose for the Cannonball, and again, I've seen these in opposite colors as well, red with yellow lettering, and again, it's only lettered on the one side. So these can be had very inexpensively at shows. I think this trio here I probably spent less than $10 on, and I was interested in getting the FA actually as a repaint, as a something that I could paint into different colors. But I decided to kind of keep it the way it was after all. So what happened to Kusan and what happened to their stuff? Well, as the 50s rolled along, sales were not quite what Kusan had anticipated. And so by 1960, they had left the train business, continuing with their other toys, and these molds went to other manufacturers. So for example, this very detailed FA, much nicer actually than the Lionel version. The molds eventually came into the hands in the 1990s of K-Line. Say hello to the K-Line FA, which is identical match for the Kusan. You could take a Kusan shell and with a simple modification of making the coupler pocket a little bit bigger, you could put it on a K-Line shell, a K-Line drive, and you could, if you really wanted to, have a powered Kusan Cannonball. So the FAs survived with K-Line. Well, what about the boxcars? Well, the boxcars eventually came in to the ownership of Williams, who made them in the early 1980s with a cheap line of train sets that they did for a couple of years, 82, 83. Again, a permanently molded open door, permanently molded closed door, the same single-piece Kusan couplers. But those didn't hang around for too long. Williams got out of that part of their business and focused on more detailed stuff, and I don't know that those have been produced by anyone since. The Kusan caboose, however, has had a much longer lifespan. It has been remade by Williams, by K-Line, by RMT, and I'm pretty sure, although I haven't done a side-by-side comparison, I'm pretty sure that the new Menards cabooses are also based on these Kusan molds. Well, is that all? Well, no. In addition to the FA, Kusan also made a inexpensive diesel. Williams, when they made them in the 80s, called them the Mighty Might. RMT called them the Beep. But these were usually, this is not a Kusan, this is a Williams, but the Kusan were very similar. Some of them had handrails, some of them didn't. These were generally, in Kusan, they were generally battery powered. Williams made them as DC only, and RMT makes a nice version of these as well. So those continue. Well, rolling stock. In addition to the boxcar, Kusan also made a couple of flat cars. This is an original Kusan flat car, but the load is not original. But again, you see the distinctive couplers, plastic wheels, plastic trucks, although I like the detailed side frames. It gives you something else there. But they also made this depressed center flat car, which again, this is a Williams version, which they use for an Army set. Kusan was very early to building Army trains. Matter of fact, I'm not sure on the timeline, they might have beaten Lionel to the punch on military sets. So this originally started with the Kusan line, continued with Williams. K-Line made these also. Kusan also developed this Kannon, which they put on a shorter flat car. They put it on that flat car, so it looked really ridiculous hanging over the edge. When Williams remade it, they put it on the depressed center car. So this inexpensive floor toy that you could get for 75 cents in a box top in 1957, these products are still made today. Williams, RMT, Menards, they have a long line with K-Line, many of their products as well. So this little toy manufacturer that you've probably never heard of has had a huge impact on the toy train market of today. Incidentally, the AMT boxcars that were purchased by Kusan, produced by Kusan through the 1950s, are the Menards boxcars of today. So again, from 1950s to the 2010s, these molds seem to, a good mold never dies. And even if it came from a very inexpensive and humble beginnings, the basis of these dies continue and continue and continue. So I haven't seen the FAs made in a while. I haven't seen the F7s made in a while. Williams made some in the late 80s, early 90s. But those molds are floating around somewhere, and maybe someday the Kusan diesels will return. But the rolling stock seems to be pumping along, most of them, through Menards, through RMT, and through other sources. So next time you see them around, give them a second thought. The original Kusans, the Cannonballs are the cheapest. You probably find them for $2 a car or less. Some of the other road names, some of the more colorful road names, can go for much more than that, comparable to Lionel cars of the same period. So, hopefully you learned a little bit more about Kusan today. And if you like the video, again, like it, share it, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, and keep the trains running. We'll see you next time on Toy Train Tips and Tricks.